Story 1. The cabin. I want to preface this by saying I'm not someone who scares easily. I grew up in a rural area, spent half my childhood outdoors, and I've camped alone more times than I can count. I say that because I need you to understand that what I'm about to describe isn't the reaction of someone who panics at every snapped twig or shadow moving through trees. This was something else entirely, and it took me a long time before I was ready to talk about it. 3 years ago, my girlfriend and I rented a cabin about 4 hours north of where we lived. Late October, her idea. She'd always wanted to do a full weekend in the woods, leaves changing, fireplace going, the whole thing. We found the place through one of those rental sites. Decent reviews, reasonable price, nothing that raised any flags. The owner communicated through the platform, answered every question we had, sent us a detailed check-in document with the door code and a list of local restaurants and hiking trails nearby. We arrived on a Friday evening just as it was getting dark. The drive up the last stretch was longer than we expected, a narrow gravel road that wound through dense trees for almost 2 miles before the cabin came into view. Nice place. Bigger than the photos suggested. Wraparound porch, wood stacked neatly along the side, a fire pit out back. We unloaded the car, got a fire going, made dinner, opened a bottle of wine. It was exactly what we'd planned for. By 10 o'clock, we were both relaxed and talking about doing this every fall from now on. That's when I noticed the lights. Across the tree line, maybe a quarter mile out, there was a faint light moving through the trees, low to the ground, not steady, the kind of light a flashlight or a headlamp makes when someone is carrying it on foot. Moving parallel to the cabin, slow and even, like someone on a path. I mentioned it to my girlfriend. She looked, shrugged, said it was probably just a neighbor out walking or a hunter checking traps. Rural area, dark early, people use headlamps, perfectly reasonable. I said, yeah, probably, and went back to my wine, but I kept watching it out the corner of my eye. And what bothered me, the more I watched, was the direction. Whoever was carrying that light wasn't moving away from the cabin, they were moving toward it. Slowly, steadily, cutting through the tree line at an angle that would bring them out somewhere close to the edge of the property if they kept going the same direction. I got up and turned off the porch light, which we'd left on as kind of ambient light. The cabin went darker and the outdoor light dropped to just firelight from the pit out back. The light in the trees stopped moving, just stopped. Like whoever was carrying it had noticed the change and paused. I stood at the window watching it for almost a minute. It didn't move at all. Then slowly it changed direction, started moving back the way it had come, retreating deeper into the trees, and within a few minutes it was gone entirely. I told my girlfriend what I'd noticed, the direction change, the pause when I cut the porch light. She was quiet for a second, then said maybe it was a coincidence, maybe they'd just reached wherever they were going. She wasn't dismissive about it, just practical. We locked the doors, checked the windows, and went to bed. I woke up at 2 a.m. No sound that I could identify woke me, just the sudden, sharp awareness of being awake. That feeling you get when your body wakes up before your brain and something in your nervous system is already paying attention before you fully know why. I lay still and listened. Nothing at first, just the fire settling, the wind outside, the sounds you expect from an old cabin in the woods. Then footsteps on the porch. Slow, deliberate, moving along the side of the building, crossing the front, stopping at the door. I reached over and woke my girlfriend without making a sound, just squeezed her arm until she opened her eyes. I put my finger to my lips. She heard it immediately. I could tell from the way her whole body went rigid. We lay there, both completely still, listening to whoever was on that porch stand at the front door in total silence for what felt like minutes. No knock, no voice, just presence, the specific, unmistakable weight of someone standing on the other side of a door. Then we heard something that made my blood go cold. The door handle moved, slowly, carefully, like someone testing it without wanting to be heard. The door was locked. The handle turned, held, then released. Silence. Then it turned again. A second test, a little more pressure this time. I grabbed my phone off the nightstand. No signal. We'd known that coming in. The owner had mentioned it in the check-in document, said the closest signal was back at the main road. I'd thought nothing of it when I read it Friday afternoon. The handle released again. Then we heard footsteps moving off the porch, around the side of the building, toward the bedroom window. I got up. I didn't have a plan exactly. I just knew I wasn't going to lie in that bed and wait to see what happened at the window. I grabbed the fireplace poker from the living room, the only thing resembling a weapon in the cabin, and stood against the wall beside the bedroom window, off to the side where I couldn't be seen from outside. My girlfriend was behind me. Neither of us said a word. The footsteps stopped outside the window. A shadow crossed the curtain, just the shape of it. A head, shoulders, visible through the thin fabric in the moonlight. Whoever it was, they were standing close, their silhouette clear against the curtain. They stood there for a long time, long enough that my arms started shaking from holding the poker. Then the shadow moved back along the wall, away from the window, and we heard the footsteps cross the back of the cabin toward the tree line. Then nothing. We didn't sleep. We sat together in the center of the living room with every light in the cabin on, the fireplace poker across my knees until the sun came up. Then we packed the car in 20 minutes flat and drove out the gravel road without stopping. I filed a report with the county sheriff's office from the main road once we had signal again. A deputy went out that afternoon and found what he described as evidence of someone having been present around the exterior of the cabin, cigarette butts near the tree line, footprints in the soft dirt along the side of the building near the bedroom window, and marks on the front door that were consistent with someone testing the lock. He said there'd been a few similar reports from rental properties in that area over the past year. Nobody caught, nobody identified. I left a review for the cabin, honest, detailed. The owner replied privately, apologetic, said they'd had no previous incidents. What I didn't put in the review, what I've never put anywhere public until now, was the detail the deputy told me almost in passing as we wrapped up the report. He said whoever had been walking through the trees would have had to pass by the cabin at least twice to have come from that direction, meaning they'd been out there longer than the light suggested, meaning by the time I saw them, they'd already made at least one pass by the property in the dark before we turned the porch light on, before we'd done anything to indicate we'd noticed them at all. They'd already been out there in the dark watching the cabin, we just hadn't known it yet. Story 2, The Basement. The house I grew up in had a basement that my parents never fully finished. Half of it was set up as a laundry room and storage. The other half was bare concrete floor and exposed pipes, the kind of space that exists in a lot of older houses, functional but not somewhere you spend time by choice. The light down there was a single bulb on a pull chain at the bottom of the stairs, and the switch at the top of the stairs controlled a separate light near the washer and dryer. If you wanted the far half of the basement lit up, you had to go all the way down and pull the chain yourself. I mention the layout because it matters. When I was 16, my parents went away for a long weekend. My aunt's birthday, some kind of family thing I'd been allowed to skip because of a school commitment that had since been cancelled. I had the house to myself for 4 days. I'd done it before without issue. I was responsible, didn't have wild parties, checked in when they called. Nobody was worried about it. The first 2 days were completely normal. I had friends over Friday night, cleaned up after them, watched too much TV, slept late, normal empty house teenager stuff. Saturday night was when things started. I was in my room around midnight, half asleep, when I heard something from below me, a thud, just one, heavy and distinct, coming from the basement directly beneath my room. I lay still and listened. Nothing followed it. Old houses make sounds, pipes knock, beams shift. I turned over and went back to sleep. Sunday afternoon, I went down to switch the laundry. I pulled the chain for the far bulb out of habit, even though I didn't need the extra light, and that's when I noticed it. The storage shelves along the back wall had been disturbed, not ransacked. Nothing was thrown around or obviously broken into, but I knew that shelf. I'd walked past it my entire life. The boxes on the second row from the bottom were pushed slightly forward. One of them turned at an angle that was different from how it always sat. The kind of difference you might not notice if you weren't looking for it. I stood there for a second, telling myself my parents had probably moved something before they left. Totally possible, completely reasonable, but there was something else. On the concrete floor near the base of the shelf, a mark, a smudge like something had been set down and then picked back up, and next to the shelves, near the wall, a faint impression in the thin layer of dust that settled on old basement floors over time. The shape of it was long, narrow, like someone had been lying down. I went back upstairs and locked the basement door. I didn't go back down that night, told myself I'd look more carefully in the morning in daylight and figure out what I was actually seeing. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was constructing a story out of ordinary things because I was alone in the house and my brain was looking for something to be afraid of. That night, around 2 a.m, I woke up again. Sounds from the basement, not one thud this time. Movement, consistent, low, the kind of sound that has weight behind it. Something shifting around in the space below me. I sat up and grabbed my phone, called my friend who lived 3 streets over. The only person I could think to call who could actually be there in minutes. He picked up on the 4th ring, half asleep, and I told him something was in my basement and I needed him to come over. He was there in 8 minutes, still in the clothes he'd fallen asleep in. We stood at the top of the basement stairs together, the door between us and whatever was down there, and just listened. Silence, complete silence. Whatever sound I'd heard had stopped. My friend wanted to go down and check. I didn't. We compromised by opening the door at the top, turning on the laundry room light from the switch at the top of the stairs and looking down from the doorway. We could see the bottom of the stairs, the laundry area, part of the storage shelves. Everything looked still. Then we both heard it at the same moment, a sound from the far half of the basement. The half that was in complete darkness because the only light for that section was the pull chain at the bottom of the stairs, and neither of us had gone down to pull it. A sound like breathing, slow, steady, patient. My friend grabbed my arm and pulled me back from the doorway, and I slammed the door, and we both put our weight against it. We called the police from the kitchen, backs against the far wall, watching that basement door. 2 officers arrived within 15 minutes. They went through the basement thoroughly, every corner, every shadow, the full unlit half included. They found the space behind the back storage shelves had been disturbed, a gap between the shelf unit and the wall wide enough for a person to fit into if they pressed themselves flat. In that gap, they found a wadded up piece of fabric, a shirt, men's size, dirty, and an empty water bottle. Someone had been in that space, not just that night. The water bottle had been there long enough to accumulate its own thin layer of dust. Someone had been living in my basement. The investigation that followed turned up a few things my parents didn't fully share with me at the time, things I pieced together over the years from overheard conversations and eventually just asking directly as an adult. The person was never identified. They had likely entered through a small ground-level window in the unfinished half of the basement, one that turned out to have a broken latch that nobody had ever noticed because nobody had any reason to check it. The thing that stays with me, the thing that kept me out of basements for years afterward, was the timeline. The latch had been broken long enough that the officer who looked at it said it showed significant wear consistent with regular use. Not a one-time break-in. Someone had been using that window for a long time. Long before that weekend, long before my parents left, they'd been down there while we were all home. While we were upstairs, living our lives, eating dinner, watching TV, sleeping, they'd been right below us in the dark, quiet enough that we never knew.